The kitchen sink had been dripping for 3 weeks, and I finally decided to fix it at midnight on a Tuesday. That's the kind of husband I was, always putting off the small things until they became annoying enough to lose sleep over. I'm Jake Morrison, 38 years old, city maintenance technician, and apparently the most clueless man in Millbrook, according to my wife. No, babe, he's completely oblivious, Jessica whispered into her phone from the living room. I'll be at the office late again tomorrow. Don't worry, Eric. I froze with my wrench halfway to the pipe. Eric, her boss at the law firm. The same Eric she'd been mentioning a lot lately. How brilliant he was, how he understood her ambitions, how he made her feel valued. He's probably in there playing with his tools right now, she continued with a giggle that made my stomach twist. Yeah, that's all he's good for. Fixing things. Clueless, huh? We'd see about that. I finished the sink repair in complete silence, my mind racing. 20 years of marriage, and this is what it came to. Late-night phone calls with her boss while I fixed the house she wanted to abandon. The next morning, Jessica kissed my cheek like nothing happened. Working late again tonight, honey. Big case. Sure thing, I said, watching her grab her designer purse, the one she claimed was a gift from her sister. Say hi to Eric for me. She paused at the door, something flickering across her face. How do you know Eric? You talk about him constantly, Jess. Your wonderful boss who appreciates you so much. She relaxed. Right. Well, he is pretty great. After she left, I started my real work. 20 years as a maintenance tech teaches you to be thorough, to check every connection, every hidden space. I found the burner phone taped under her jewelry box drawer within an hour. The messages made my hands shake, not with sadness, but with rage. Photos, plans, detailed descriptions of their encounters in his office, in hotels, in our bed when I was working weekend shifts. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how they mocked me. Poor Jake. So trusting, one message read. He actually believes I'm working late? I photographed everything, uploaded it to a secure cloud account, then carefully placed the phone back exactly where I found it. That afternoon, I drove to Jessica's office with sandwiches from her favorite deli. Surprise lunch? I announced to the receptionist. Eric appeared immediately, all nervous smiles and sweaty palms. Jake, what a nice surprise. Jessica's in a meeting, but... No problem, I said, setting the bag on the reception desk. Just wanted to drop this off. Oh, and Eric? I pulled out a small envelope. Jessica dropped this at home. Looked important. Inside the envelope was a single note. Smile for the cameras, buddy. His face went white. What cameras? The ones that see everything, I said, walking toward the exit. Have a great day, Eric. Take care of my wife. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I was halfway to my truck when I heard the sound, metal scraping against paint. Eric stood beside my pickup with his car keys in his hand, a long scratch running down the passenger side. Oops, he said with a smirk. Parking lots can be dangerous. I nodded slowly. Yeah, they really can be. Thanks for the reminder. That night, Jessica came home 3 hours later than usual, agitated and snappy. Did you go to my office today? Just brought you lunch. Thought you might be hungry after all that hard work. She stared at me for a long moment, then went to bed without another word. I sat in my workshop until dawn, planning. Millbrook is the kind of town where everyone knows everyone's business, which makes it perfect for what I had in mind. The key was understanding the social network, who talked to whom, who held grudges, who could be trusted with information. My first stop was Mel's Beauty Salon. Mel Harper had been Jessica's best friend since high school, and she ran the gossip central of Millbrook from behind her styling chairs. She also had a jealous streak a mile wide. Jake Morrison, she squealed when I walked in. What brings you to my little kingdom? Need advice about an anniversary gift for Jess, I said, settling into the waiting area. Something special. She's been working so hard lately. Oh, honey, she really has. All those late nights at the office. Mel's tone carried just a hint of something else. That boss of hers sure keeps her busy. Eric seems like a demanding guy. Demanding isn't the word I'd use, Mel muttered, then caught herself. I mean, he expects a lot from his employees. I leaned forward conspiratorially. Between you and me, I think he might be a little too interested in my wife. Mel's eyes lit up. Really? What makes you say that? Just a feeling. The way he looks at her, you know. And I heard from someone at City Hall that he's got quite the reputation with his female employees. This was a lie, but Mel ate it up. Within an hour, she'd be spreading it to half the town. You should be careful, Jake. Men like that think they can have whatever they want. Maybe I should have a talk with his wife, I mused. Wife? Honey, Eric Palmer isn't married. Divorced 3 years ago. Nasty business. Caught him with his secretary. Perfect. Even better than I'd hoped. My next stop was Murphy's Tavern, where my old friend Denny held court behind the bar. Denny had been a cop for 15 years before buying the place, and he still had connections throughout the county. Jake Morrison, you look like hell, he said, pouring me a beer without being asked. Feel like it too. Got a situation, Denny. I told him everything, the phone calls, the burner phone, the messages. Denny listened without interruption, his cop instincts still sharp. What do you want to do about it? He asked finally. I want them to pay. Not just Jessica, both of them. And I want the whole town to know what kind of people they really are. Denny nodded slowly. I can help with that. Got some friends who owe me favors. But Jake, you sure you want to go down this road? Once you start, there's no taking it back. They already made that choice for me. That evening, I put Phase 1 into motion. I created a fake social media account and started following Eric Palmer's public profiles. The man was an egomaniac, posting photos of his expensive car, his fancy apartment, his business achievements. He also had a habit of checking in at restaurants and hotels around the county. I cross-referenced his locations with Jessica's late work nights and found perfect matches going back 6 months. They weren't even trying to hide it. They were just confident I was too stupid to notice. The next day, Mrs. Parker from next door cornered me while I was checking my mailbox. She was 62, retired, and had nothing better to do than monitor the neighborhood through her front window. Jake, dear, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is everything all right with Jessica? What do you mean, Mrs. Parker? Well, she's been keeping such odd hours lately, and I couldn't help but notice that fancy car that's been parking down the street some evenings. Silver BMW. Very expensive looking. I felt a surge of satisfaction. Mrs. Parker had been watching without even knowing it. Probably just work stuff, I said casually. You know how dedicated she is to her career. Oh yes, very dedicated. Though I have to say, that car was here until quite late last Tuesday. Past midnight, I believe. Last Tuesday. The night she told me she was working late on depositions. Thanks for keeping an eye out, Mrs. Parker. It's nice to know we have such observant neighbors. She beamed, pleased to be useful. Any time, dear. Any time at all. By the end of the week, I had built a comprehensive intelligence network without anyone realizing they were part of it. Mel was feeding me information about Jessica's behavior and Eric's reputation. Denny was providing technical support and connections. Mrs. Parker was my unwitting surveillance system. The pieces were falling into place. Saturday morning, Jessica announced she was going shopping with Mel. Girls' day, she said, kissing my forehead. We'll probably grab dinner too, so don't wait up. Have fun, I said, knowing exactly where she'd really be spending her afternoon. I'd been tracking Eric's social media posts, and he'd checked in at the Riverside Hotel the past 3 Saturdays. Today would be no different. After Jessica left, I drove to the hotel and positioned myself in the parking lot across the street. Sure enough, Eric's silver BMW pulled in at 1:30 p.m., followed 10 minutes later by Jessica's red Accord. I waited an hour, then called the hotel from a payphone outside the gas station next door. Riverside Hotel, how can I help you? Hi, I'm trying to reach my wife. She's meeting with her lawyer in your conference room today. Jessica Morrison? I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have any conference rooms booked today. Are you sure you have the right hotel? Maybe she said meeting room? She's with Eric Palmer? A pause. Sir, I can't give out information about our guests, but I can tell you we don't have any business meetings scheduled today. No problem. I'll try her cell. Thanks. Perfect. Now I had confirmation they were lying about the nature of their meetings. I drove home and spent the afternoon preparing for Phase 2. Using my city maintenance credentials, I'd acquired access to the building inspection records for Eric's office building. Technically, I was supposed to be checking the HVAC systems, but nobody questioned a guy in work clothes carrying official paperwork. Eric's office was on the 3rd floor, corner suite with big windows facing the street. During my inspection, I noticed his desk positioned perfectly for privacy, a small couch in the corner, and most importantly, the building's security camera blind spots. I also planted a small device. Nothing illegal, just a basic motion sensor that would ping my phone when triggered. If Jessica was really working late, the sensor would show normal office hours activity. If she was lying, it would reveal the truth. Monday evening, Jessica announced another late night. Big presentation tomorrow? Eric and I need to go over everything. Sounds important, I said. Good luck. At 8 p.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected in Eric's office. At 11:30 p.m., motion stopped. Jessica came home at midnight, claiming she'd been reviewing documents until the building security guard kicked her out at 11:45. The timeline didn't match. Tuesday, I implemented the next phase. I'd been going to the gym religiously for 3 weeks, not to get in shape, but to be seen. Millbrook's fitness center was another gossip hub, and I wanted people to notice I was taking care of myself. "Looking good, Jake," said Tom Bradley, who worked at the bank. "Training for something special?" "Just trying to stay healthy," I replied, adding another 10 pounds to the bench press. "Wife keeps saying I'm getting soft." "Jessica said that? Man, she should appreciate what she's got." Should and do are different things, Tom. Word would spread that Jake Morrison was hitting the gym, taking care of himself, maybe not as complacent as everyone thought. Wednesday, I made my first direct move. I showed up at Eric's office building at 5:30 p.m., right when most people were leaving for the day. "Jake?" Jessica looked genuinely shocked to see me in the lobby. "What are you doing here?" "Thought I'd take you to dinner. You've been working so hard lately." Eric appeared beside her, his face carefully neutral. "What a nice surprise. Unfortunately, we have a lot of work to finish tonight." "No problem," I said cheerfully. "I'll wait." The look that passed between them was priceless, pure panic. "Actually," Jessica said quickly, "we might be here really late. Rain check?" "Sure thing. Eric, you don't mind if I wait in your office while you two wrap up? I brought a book." "That's really not," Eric started. "Necessary," I finished. "You're right. I'll head home. But hey, since I'm here, mind if I use your restroom?" Before they could object, I was walking toward the elevators. I knew the building layout from my inspection, and I made sure to take the long way to the men's room, passing Eric's office and noting the motion sensor I'd placed was still in position. When I returned to the lobby, they were whispering urgently in the corner. "All set," I announced. "See you at home, honey. Don't work too hard." That night, Jessica didn't come home until 2 a.m. The motion sensor showed activity in Eric's office until 1:45. The trap was set. Now it was time to spring it. Thursday morning brought the first crack in Jessica's composure. She was jumpy, distracted, checking her phone constantly. "Everything okay?" I asked over coffee. "Fine, just stressed about work." "Maybe you should take a vacation. We could go somewhere nice. Remember that resort in the mountains you wanted to visit?" Her face went pale. "I can't take time off right now." "Sure you can. I already looked into it. Mountain View Resort. Same place you bookmarked on your laptop. They have availability next weekend." "You were looking at my laptop?" "Just trying to plan something special for us. Unless you'd rather go with someone else?" The coffee mug trembled in her hands. "Don't be ridiculous." That afternoon, I put my plan into motion. I drove to Mountain View Resort, a 3-hour trip each way, and spent 2 hours taking photos of myself at various locations around the property. The front desk, the restaurant, the scenic overlook, the spa entrance. But I wasn't alone in the photos. Mel had been eager to help when I'd called her that morning. "A surprise trip for Jessica? How romantic. But why do you need me there?" "I want to scout locations for our anniversary trip, but I need a woman's perspective. You know what Jessica likes better than anyone." She bought it completely. The photos looked perfect. Me and Mel laughing together, her arm around my waist, both of us looking relaxed and happy. To anyone scrolling through social media, it would look like a romantic getaway. I posted them Friday morning with the caption, "Sometimes the best trips are the unexpected ones. Thanks for the perfect day, beautiful." Within an hour, my phone was buzzing with notifications. The Millbrook gossip network was in overdrive. Jessica called me at work, her voice tight with controlled fury. "What the hell are those photos, Jake?" "Photos? Oh, you mean from yesterday? Mel and I drove up to check out that resort. You know, for our anniversary trip." "You went to a romantic resort with my best friend?" "It wasn't romantic, Jess. It was research. Although I have to say, Mel really appreciated the gesture. She said it's been years since anyone treated her like she mattered." The line went quiet for a long moment. "You had no right to take her there without telling me." "Like you tell me about your late nights with Eric?" Another pause. "That's different. That's work." "Is it?" "Because Mrs. Parker mentioned Eric's car has been parked on our street quite a few evenings lately. Funny how work keeps following you home." I hung up before she could respond. Friday evening, Jessica came home early for the first time in weeks. She was furious, pacing the living room like a caged animal. "I can't believe you took Mel to that resort." "Why?" "It's just a place, Jess. Unless it has some special meaning you haven't told me about." Her face flushed. "It doesn't mean anything. It's just inappropriate." "Inappropriate? Like staying at the office until midnight every night? Like having your boss's car parked outside our house?" "You're being paranoid." I pulled out my phone and showed her the motion sensor data, timestamps proving when Eric's office was occupied versus when she claimed to be working. Am I? For the first time since this started, Jessica looked genuinely scared. Jake, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But here's the thing, Jess. I don't want to hear it. I already know everything. I showed her screenshots from the burner phone, photos of her and Eric at the hotel, records of their text messages. She collapsed onto the couch, all pretense gone. How long have you known? Long enough. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Jake, please. It's not what you think. Eric and I were not... Save it. I've seen the photos. I've read the messages. I know exactly what you and Eric are. She started crying then, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration, of someone who'd been caught and was looking for a way out. What do you want? She asked finally. I want you to understand something, Jessica. You and Eric think you're so much smarter than everyone else. You think you can lie and cheat and mock people behind their backs without consequences. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. You're about to learn how wrong you are. Saturday morning, Jessica was gone when I woke up. Her suitcase was missing, along with most of her clothes. She'd left a note on the kitchen table. I'm staying at Mel's until we figure this out. Don't do anything stupid. Too late for that advice. I spent the morning making final preparations. The annual Millbrook Harvest Festival was that evening, the biggest social event of the year, where the entire town gathered in Memorial Park for food, music, and community announcements. Denny had used his connections to get me access to the festival's PA system. You sure about this, Jake? Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. They made their choice. Now I'm making mine. At 3 p.m., I drove to Eric's apartment building. His BMW was in its assigned spot, freshly washed and gleaming in the afternoon sun. I'd been watching his patterns for weeks. Saturday afternoons, he always went to the gym, then to the country club for drinks with his lawyer buddies. I had about 4 hours. The paint bombs were Denny's idea. Theatrical, but harmless. Bright pink, washable, but embarrassing as hell. I rigged them to the car's exhaust system with a simple timer mechanism. When Eric started the engine later, he'd get a spectacular but non-damaging surprise. Phase 2 required more finesse. I'd spent weeks collecting evidence, but I needed the right moment to deploy it. The festival's community announcement segment was perfect. A captive audience, live streaming to social media, and no way for Eric or Jessica to stop it once it started. At 6 p.m., I arrived at the festival. Half the town was already there, families with kids, teenagers on dates, elderly couples sharing funnel cake, normal people living normal lives, unaware that their evening entertainment was about to get a lot more interesting. I found Mel working the face-painting booth, her usual spot at community events. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me. Jake, I didn't expect to see you here. Wouldn't miss it. Thanks again for yesterday. Those photos turned out great. She glanced around nervously. About that, Jessica was pretty upset. Jessica's upset about a lot of things lately, but that's not your fault, Mel. At 7:30, Eric arrived with Jessica. They stayed near the back of the crowd, clearly uncomfortable but trying to maintain appearances. Jessica kept checking her phone, probably hoping I'd changed my mind. At 8 p.m., the community announcements began. Mayor Davidson took the microphone to thank local businesses, recognize volunteers, and share upcoming events. At 8:15, I made my move. Excuse me, Mayor Davidson? I approached the stage with a folder in my hands. Jake Morrison, City Maintenance. I have some important information the community should know about. The crowd quieted, curious about the interruption. I saw Jessica push through the crowd, panic on her face. Ugh, this is about integrity, I said, taking the microphone. About trust. About what happens when people think they're smarter than everyone else. I opened the folder and began reading selected text messages, edited for public consumption but devastating in their implications. Messages about deceiving spouses, about laughing at clueless partners, about using positions of power for personal gain. The crowd was riveted. This was better than any soap opera. These messages were sent between a local attorney and his employee, I continued, a married employee who was telling her husband she was working late while actually... That's enough! Eric pushed through the crowd, his face red with rage and embarrassment. Is it? I held up printed photos. Eric and Jessica at the hotel, at restaurants, in compromising positions. Because I have a lot more evidence of how you two have been spending your work time. The crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. Phones came out, recording everything. Jessica reached the stage, tears streaming down her face. Jake, please stop this. Like you stopped lying to me? Like you stopped mocking me to your boyfriend? Eric grabbed for the microphone, but Denny appeared beside him, all 6'4", 250 pounds of ex-cop muscle. I don't think so, pal. This is harassment, Eric shouted. I'll have you arrested. For what? Telling the truth? Everything I've shared tonight is documented fact. The crowd was on my side now. Eric Palmer had never been popular in Millbrook, too arrogant, too condescending to the locals. And Jessica, despite her small-town roots, had become increasingly distant as her career advanced. There's more, I announced. Eric Palmer has been using his position at the law firm to manipulate female employees. Jessica isn't his first victim, just his most recent. This was partially fabricated, but based on enough truth that Eric couldn't deny it without revealing more than he wanted to. You're lying, he screamed. Am I? Then explain these. I held up more photos. Eric with other women at various hotels and restaurants over the past 2 years. The crowd turned hostile. Someone shouted, "Get out of our town!" Others joined in. Eric tried to push through the crowd toward the parking lot, but the festival goers weren't making it easy. Jessica followed, sobbing and trying to hide her face. I watched them go, feeling a satisfaction I'd never experienced before. Then I heard the explosion. Not a real explosion, just the paint bombs detonating as Eric started his BMW. Pink paint erupted from the exhaust pipe, covering the back of the car and spraying across the parking lot. The crowd roared with laughter and applause. Eric stood beside his ruined car, covered in pink paint, his expensive suit destroyed, his reputation in shambles. Jessica cowered beside him, equally paint-splattered, her designer dress ruined. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced into the microphone, I present Mr. and Mrs. Better Off as friends. The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter. Someone started chanting, "Pink car! Pink car!" Eric and Jessica climbed into the paint-covered BMW and drove away, leaving a trail of pink drops behind them. I handed the microphone back to Mayor Davidson and walked through the cheering crowd toward my truck. Denny caught up with me at the parking lot exit. You did it, Jake. They're finished in this town. Yeah, I said, watching the pink trail disappear around the corner. They really are. The festival continued behind us, but I could hear my name being mentioned in excited conversations. By tomorrow, everyone in 3 counties would know the story. I drove home alone, windows down, feeling truly free for the first time in months. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting everything.